I want to see her become more confident. I want to see her become that badass prosecutor that she is supposed to be. So I'm glad
Yeah,
we're like on track towards it. But
totally.
I still think the relationship is unnecessary.
Well, he's dead now, so it's over.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Two Beans and a Screen, the podcast where we are watching K-dramas and talking about them. For now, this week we are watching episode 10 of Reborn Rich. I'm here with CV, and my name is qomi. Say hi.
Oh, hi.
Yo, intros are so hard.
Intros are hard. I don't know how people do that. Maybe this is why everybody starts the video by like shouting because they're nervous.
Hello!
What's up, everybody? Like everybody, you know, that YouTube energy, that's got to be why that is, because they're nervous. Even the biggest YouTubers are nervous.
I don't believe that.
Okay, I don't believe that either. They're professionals. But I'd like to think that's why it is, because it's relatable. And with that said, if you enjoy our content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because this is our start to the channel. So lots of energy this episode, because qomi, this is a very, very interesting episode. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think this one is my favorite episode so far.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, with that, let's dive right into the impressions, everybody. Episode 10. qomi, before we even get to overall impressions, on a scale of Jin Do Jun to 2-0, how much were you screaming at the end of this episode?
I didn't think I was 2-0 level until the end. I was getting close, I think.
There was an
everything just kept
audible
building.
noise, right?
Yeah, everything just kept going like higher, like, and I was like, oh my god. I actually gasped at the end too, which I didn't expect. Like, it's such a typical K-drama thing, but I also didn't expect it.
I think what got me was the fact that this ties everything together and finally answered so many of our questions.
Yeah.
Like this was the moment that confirmed. He even says it. He's like,
Yep.
wait, we're really going right to the end? Okay,
Yep.
no, it's fine. It's fine. He even says, he's like, you cannot change any major events. This is why I didn't know him. And he reveals like it from the very first episode when he looks at the chart of all the family members and he doesn't remember there being a 4-2. And then he actually sees it and it's his face. One of our commenters' theory, I think, is kind of confirmed of why he couldn't remember anything about 4-2 and he kind of gets the headache. I think, I'm so sorry, I don't remember your name, but I think that theory is pretty much confirmed at this point, assuming he dies.
Yeah, I mean, is that the end of the show then? Because
Okay, let's theorize. qomi, what do you think is going to happen? One, is he dead?
he can't die, I think, unless he gets reborn again.
There's the thing. Okay. So what's going to happen? If he's not, okay, let's say he does not die here. What happens?
If he doesn't die here, if he survives somehow, oh, bro, okay. I didn't think a car crash was going to happen because, you know, like, we've seen so many cars, like, dialogue already happening and stuff like that. But then when I saw a car coming from the window on the chairman's side, I was like, no, don't do it, man. Don't do this. And then obviously they do it. And then
They do it.
a freaking truck is also coming, heading this way. And I'm like, no, seriously, really? Like,
Do you know what's so funny about that is we joked a couple episodes ago when we found out the chairman had the brain tumor. We're like, oh, but what happens if like he gets hit by a car before then? We were literally joking about this, and it's actually taking place. Because, okay, let me throw this to you. Do you think, even if Jin Do Jun manages to survive, is this the end of the chairman?
dude, that car slammed into him on his side. He's dead, man. He's gone.
Okay.
Like, I don't think he's gonna survive.
We're on the same page there. We're definitely on the same page there. Okay, so let's pretend that Jin Do Jun does manage to survive.
Yeah.
Does he go into hiding? Is this where he disappears? Does somebody get a hold of him? Because this would be the point that it would make sense. He vanishes, right? Like the mother knows he's alive but can't get access to him? Like, what happens now?
I think, yeah, I can see him either staying and standing his ground, like he doesn't die, like he, is still part of the family, but because he doesn't get assigned the financial, Soon financial group fund, whatever, the shares, like it's everything's still up in the air. There's still no rightful heir
Right.
to Soon, and
Okay.
like that's where his fight still continues on. Or yeah, he has to kind of go into hiding. Maybe someone else is going to take over. Maybe I think maybe like 1-1 has to take over because he died. Like the chairman died.
Yeah.
There was no like successor announced. So as the oldest, right?
He would naturally, primogeniture would still take place.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
like,
Do you think 1-1 is the one who had the car hit him?
I don't know why. I think it's Hyunmin. Cause she's crazy.
You think it's the yandere energy, right? Like you look in her eyes and you just see her being like, I
she's
love
psycho.
you. Don't leave me. Like it's like that thing. It's like, oh no.
Right? And like when she says like, oh, if you ever need help, just let me know, cause we're family. And I'm like, you're so creepy. She's giving off creepy energy now.
She definitely gives off the creepy energy. I don't think it's her. I don't know. Let me put this out there. Great theory because I love it. That is so good. I think most likely it is just 1-1. I think he's been playing the good guy up until this point. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of weird how good he's been because we know he's not all sunshine and rainbows, especially because his dad has like pretty much screwed him out of what he was going to get. I feel like this is his way of like getting what he deserves and
Yeah,
finally
or-
getting his revenge.
Oh, sorry, we were saying 1-1, but it's 1-0. It
1-0.
could be 1-1.
You're right. Sorry, 1-0.
Could be also 1-1. He's crazy
Could
too.
be 1-1. You know, he probably has access to cars over in that warehouse.
Yeah, the truck came from the manufacturing distribution warehouse.
There you go. There you go. Okay, now let's theorize one more time before we get into the impressions about the rest of the episode. What if Jin Do Jun dies here? Is it possible that he dies here?
I think it was a really strong possibility because he says like there are things that are certain that you can't avoid because it's like how life is taunting him with so many great things, and there are things that he just can't avoid, like his
He
mother's
can't change.
death.
He cannot change.
Yeah, especially when they're talking about 9/11 too. That he was specifically talking about in that moment where
Yes.
there are things that are bound to happen that you cannot change.
There was a lot of foreshadowing in the episode, and I thought it was for the 9/11 kind of moment, because they hinted even at the beginning of the episode that this same thing was bound to happen. Like, there were 3 times in the episode where they talked about not being able to escape the reality. And so I thought, I was like, oh my goodness, that they were kind of building up to that moment that we knew was coming historically.
Wait, did you actually? Because I completely forgot that we were in the year 2000 again already.
Okay, that's fair. I think the reason that it hit me is because spoilers for another K-drama. If you want to just mute for 30 seconds. Okay, I will lower my hand when I'm done talking about it. Okay. In another K-drama known as 2521,
Yeah.
very similar plot point. So it already, I think I expected it, knowing that we were in 2001 because of the Soteji kind of storyline, knowing that that's the year we were in. I knew they
Right.
would have to address it because that in 2521 it caught me off guard, I will say.
Oh, it didn't catch me off guard in that show actually, but it caught me
Oh.
off guard in this one because I thought we were still in 2000.
Oh. Yeah,
Like-
they've been skipping a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, because like now Jin Do Jun's probably 26, 27. Like
Mm-hmm.
in the last few episodes, he just went from 20 to like 27, and like I
Yeah,
just completely
in
thought
a
we were
flash.
still
Yeah.
in 2000. So when it started showing, when I saw like the calendar clock thing, I was
Yeah.
like, oh crap! Like we're in 2001.
Okay, I'm going to put my hand down because we're done talking about the other show. But yes. Okay, so lots of foreshadowing. All of this can't escape major event. What does that mean? Let's say he dies. What could happen?
I mean, where the next 6 episodes gonna be about Soo Young and taking, like, the siblings fighting over it again. I mean, they can't really fight over anything anymore because 1-1 has everything, and I mean 1-0 because 2-0, 3-0 don't have anything anymore.
I'm with you. I think it's unlikely that he dies here because I think the mom has hinted that he's still alive in like the past timeline. Like she was like, okay, I want my son, or like I want to know what happened to my son, something along those lines. I think he survives this. With that being said, if he dies, what if he actually didn't die in his past life? He almost died and he returns to the future. So he returns to his past self.
Like he's like Hyunwoo again?
Yes.
I think that's his name.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. I'm so sorry. I can never remember his name.
I think it's Hyunwoo.
Yeah. So what happens if he returned to his old life where he was shot, he falls in the ocean, he then wakes up in the hospital. Let's say it was like a glancing shot or something like that. He wakes up and now he at least knows what happens to his old self, so he can do something about it.
As Hyunwoo?
Yeah.
But he has a bullet in his head.
But what happens if they missed? It was just like, oh
He
yeah,
fell
he got
into the
shot,
ocean.
but yeah, but what if
Off
he
the
woke up?
cliffs.
What if? Yeah, he survived. It's like getting hit by a truck and a car. You shouldn't survive it, but maybe you do.
I feel like if he were to get transported back to that old life, he would be transported back into like Jin Do Jun as that timeline now.
Oh,
Because Hyunwoo is gone, he's dead. Like in that timeline, he does not exist anymore. In this current one that we're in right now, he probably does exist, right? Like you saw him seeing his happy family or whatever. But like I think in that one, like he's gone.
That's fair. So our working theory is that he survives.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have to see what happens. Whether he is taken somewhere by the family, whether he survives but is, basically like cast out, whether things continue on, but he is exacting revenge on behalf of the whatever it is, we think he survives. That's what we're getting at here.
Yeah, I think he kind of does have to survive, but I'm surprised that, or like I guess like because he knows the life of the chairman in his autobiography, does he not mention how he dies, or is it not mentioned how he dies? Because
no, I mean it's an autobiography, right? Like you wouldn't know how your death happens.
I know, but like they like it's his autobiography. He writes about his life, but then like wouldn't everyone kind of know how he dies?
You would think, right? Yeah.
Because like that means like the timeline has changed. Because if he dies from a car crash when he's not supposed to die from a car crash.
I think this is what I was trying to get at in an earlier episode. I was like, yeah, it seems like he would have all the answers and just be able to avoid those key moments. Maybe not for himself, but for everybody around him. Like he knows what age these people die at. He knows terrible things that happened to him. He knew that his grandfather didn't die in the plane crash earlier. You would think that he would be expecting a car crash if that was the case, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying like major events can't be avoided. And yet he was not expecting the chairman to die at this point?
Yeah.
Maybe this is the family covering it up because they had him taken out. So maybe it was published that it was a brain tumor.
True. I mean, 2-0 knows about the brain tumor.
He did. He knew about the brain tumor. That's
man,
okay.
he's,
Yeah,
like, he's like a little sneaky, man. He just knows everything. Like,
yeah.
There's little rats everywhere.
He's I was about to say he's the worst, but 3-0 is the worst.
I think they're all pretty terrible in their own ways, but I think they are hilarious. Like 2-0's performance in this episode was awesome. His screaming was awesome.
Okay, wait. We should dive back and start from the beginning so we can do everything properly. Otherwise, we're just going to go every direction because I want to talk about that. Let's go right back to the beginning.
Okay.
Last episode ended with Jin Do Jun trying to take down 3-0 as the CEO of Soonyoung Department Store. She was going to have to sign over all of her shares as well as the shares that she had already basically signed over to his company, making him the majority shareholder. So that was going to happen. And then in barges no one other than So Min-young, who comes in and is like, I received a false tip and that's how the episode ended. Qomi, that is not how things played out at the very beginning of this episode. What did you think of this very intro scene?
Dude, when we were talking about, well, like, last episode, we said there has to be a backup plan for if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
There's a recording pen. There's no way they would put in a scene in such a long show, like, this is the end, like, this, like, what did she say? Like, this is, like, my time with her is up or whatever. And she, finishes the dramatic recording. You know they're gonna send out the recording. I didn't expect it to be in the first 30 seconds, though, because like, they just
so
dropped
fast.
it instantly.
It was such a good cliffhanger. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I'm glad that's over with.
Yep. But, like, there's so much that has happened in this episode. I feel like they had to have, like, just thrown it in there just to, like, ease us, I guess, because someone's gonna call out, why would you show the recording pen and not use a recording pen, right?
Totally.
Yeah, it was a great way to finish off that scene, because you know that, like, she is guilty. Everyone knows she's guilty now. And I thought a really funny line she said was, even if I'm in jail for 50 years, I will never hand over my shares to you. And then you see her screaming/crying as she's about to imprint her thumb onto the documents, giving the shares to Jin Do Jun. I don't know, I liked that scene. Did you?
I really liked that scene because also it was finally the comeuppance for how she treated Jin Do Jun's mom, because she was like, why would you treat me this way? Who taught you this? And he's like, you taught me this. And I was like, oh no. He's like, you taught me to be this way. And I was like thinking about it, I'm like, wow, that's a really good way to say F you while also respecting your elder.
Yeah, I mean, I wish he did also say specifically, like, you just respected my mom, like, that type of thing. Like, this is, like, also payback for her type of thing.
I will never forget what she did to the mom. That mom needs to be protected at all costs. She is my favorite character, and I will not have her name slandered. Totally with you.
Seen her.
Where has she been? Is she too busy, like, being the golden child of Korea? Like, people love her.
Maybe next episode we'll see her. I hope we
Hopefully.
do.
I hope. I will never complain about seeing any of the 4 family members. I love the mom, I love the dad, I love the brother. They're all fantastic and deserve more screen time. Yes. Now, there's a lot to talk about with 2-0, but before we get to that, So Min Young played a much larger role this episode than even last episode, I would say. And a major part of that is kind of what she was dealing with last episode with her boss, the photo shoot that she had to take part in. That all picks up again this episode. What did you think about her whole storyline with the prosecution office?
Obviously you never get good vibes from her boss. He's such a sleazeball, and it is solidified when she is obviously upset that the whole Soonyoung department is being wrapped up. And it's kind of being just thrown under the rug because he says, like, oh yeah, she already paid it back, blah 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 blah. Like, prosecution should be contributing to paving the way for reconciliation and forgiveness, blah blah blah. Like, all this BS. And she makes a really good point saying her losing 140 million USD, like 100 billion won, due to a speculative investment, costed 37 businesses to go bankrupt and 946 people to lose their jobs. Like, she has to compensate for all the lives she's ruined, and you're forcing the victims to forgive and forget by not, like, bringing her to justice. And she calls him out saying, you're basically scared of Soonyoung, which is true. And he slams the table and basically calls her out saying, I hate working with women. You guys never served in the army, so you guys don't know how to work in organizations. Blah, 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 whatever rule in this misogynistic textbook or whatever, obey any order of your superiors. Just do as I say. And, like, he kind of swears at her, but the subtitles say, you little brat.
No, they downplayed it?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, he's just an overall, like, horrible person. And then we see when he shows up in the episode more, when she has more interactions with him, you see how much he hates her, and because she is a woman, he is infuriated. But she's trying to do a good job, and she is trying to do her best, and she is trying to bring justice to those who deserve it. I
I
don't.
think this to me was the episode where, even more than last time, we see her more in her own element, trying to stand up for what she believes in. At least
Mhm.
a little bit. She obviously has to step down in this case. She doesn't really have a choice unless she wants to immediately lose her job and all of this.
Yeah.
But it's no wonder like all of these companies have been getting away with all of this corruption and stuff when this guy's her boss. Like,
Yep.
I think we're just seeing the worst of him now come out so quickly because she is a woman and he's clearly like super misogynistic.
Yeah.
So it's more apparent, but he's clearly not a good person in the first place. Like he's willing to just walk away because he got something under the table.
Yeah. She even calls him out later on too when he has been telling the public private details about the investigation that we talk about later on. She's like, stop spreading rumors in saunas, basically.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And good for her. Like she has a whole arc in this one episode where we see her at her best in the first scene where she walks in and she shuts down 3-0. Then the power is taken away from her when she goes to her boss and she's like, why are we not following this up? Why are we not getting the money? And then after she tries to stand up to him, she's shut down and she has to walk away and she feels genuinely horrible about it. She thinks she's going to be a terrible prosecutor because of it, and we'll get more into that. And then by the end of the episode, we kind of see her recalibrate and find her way back to where she needs to be. And so I really appreciate that the writers finally are giving her not just the screen time she deserves, but they are thinking about her as more than a love interest. They're thinking about what her character needs in terms of development to grow as a person. And so it's really good to see because the actor is fantastic. So Min Young's actor manages to convey a lot with a little in this episode, whereas I feel like they were pushing her to be like really funny in the earlier episodes. And so at times I was like, oh, I just want her to be like a person. And here you see the whole span of her emotions, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not really on board of her being a love interest with Jin Do Jun. And in this episode, we see them finally have a nice, cute moment together where So Taeji finally makes a comeback. He runs out to her, brings her to, I don't know, somewhere where she can see the TV, and then she kisses him. He kisses her back, and like the slow mo of the hand grabbing and running, like all that cute stuff. Whatever. Fine, I'll accept it because it's a K drama, but I still don't think that their relationship was built enough for them to have a love story between them. And what she said about him was also made me think as well that she says, "Stop looking at me with those eyes as if you know everything about me." And I'm like, that is also true because in his old life they interacted once in that building when he and her are like having a little showdown about when she got a warrant and like took everything from Soon Young. It was that one moment where they have talked for 2 minutes, and you're telling me that this guy knows every single thing about her in her past life now? I mean, obviously he does his research about Soon Young, and I guess maybe he did his research about her too, but I don't know, man. I think that they're playing on the fact that he is drawing correlations from his old life to her when they barely interacted. So I don't know why they keep pushing on this narrative that like he's known her for so long, he knows her for like so well. He knows everything about her. I'm like, bro, like you barely knew her, so stop acting as if you know everything about her.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's a weird thing where he knows her because, yeah, they only interacted once. I think he probably had a pretty good idea of who she was because she was, the someone who hunted down Soon Young for all of its, different things. So I'm pretty sure he probably did a lot of research into her in the past. But to think that he, like, knew her well, the first time that they interact in the new timeline is when he runs into her and she's, like, overreacting. She's like, woo! Seo Taeji, like So Taeji. She's so excited, and that's why he laughs, because he's like, oh, this is what you were like? And it's like that really funny thing. I think that's when he kind of like realized, oh, she's a human. She's not just this prosecution robot, right? And so I'm like, I'm with you. Like, it feels weird that he would act like he knows her well, because he clearly didn't. He even realized at that moment himself that, oh, she's not just the prosecutor.
Yeah, dude, like he pats her head and says, "That's the So Min Young I know," or whatever. And I'm like, "No, you don't. You don't know her. Stop."
I think he's mainly like referring to her as a professional, but they keep saying it, so it feels like it means more. But
Yeah,
with that said, I'm with you. Like, I don't really get the romantic vibes between them. I think they are both good characters on their own.
yeah.
But I am glad that they kept it brief.
I
So that one
guess.
scene, you did have the slow motion running. I don't think you can avoid that. I'm pretty sure
Nope.
it's a Korean drama law that you have to have slow motion running scene for the
Yeah,
first kiss.
yeah. And dude, how are they running in slow mo and still look so good? Like,
They were looking pretty sweaty and a very, very
they look sweaty.
they did, but like in that glistening way. That's what I mean is like they were sweating, they were out of breath, and
Okay, they're
it
out
was
of
like that
breath, but
perfect glisten. The perfect they just ran in the evening on a summer night. It was like, oh, how did they do it? I'm just saying. No, but okay, so they kept it I think they kept it pretty brief. Like it was there was the kiss and then they had dinner together. But even that, like they didn't do the like K-drama romance thing where like they had to act awkward around each other or anything like that. It's very clear they jumped a little bit ahead in the relationship to
oh,
the
like
point
the
where like
cafe.
yeah, the cafe where that like she showed up late and she was just like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And he's like, "It's fine, like not a big deal." And like they were comfortable holding hands already, which, I feel like in a lot of dramas there's more of like a build up of that dynamic, and here it was like, "Oh no, they are in an established relationship. They're good." And then you get that concern where he asks her, he's like, "Are you worried that I will ever be the suspect that you are having to go after?" And there's that whole thing. So I just appreciated like they could have spent a lot of time on it this episode. We got our cute moment, and I think we're now past that, and we understand why she probably wants to go after Soon Young, because when she finds out what happened, she's probably going to be pretty pissed.
I mean, yeah, he got rolled over by two vehicles.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So I think it could have been worse. I'm with you. I'm not on board with the romance necessarily, but I do like her character arc in this episode a lot.
Yeah, I like seeing her growth. Like I want to see her become more confident. I want to see her become that badass prosecutor that she is supposed to be. So I'm glad
Yeah,
we're like on track towards it. But
totally.
I still think the relationship is unnecessary.
Well, he's dead now, so it's over. Okay. um. Anyways, okay, we have a lot to cover with 2-0 in this episode, because as much as there is within the beginning, we have 3-0's kind of storyline wrapping up. Jin Do Jun is not done. He's going head hunting, and he wants 2-0 as well. So, one, what did you think of 2-0's performance in this episode? And two, what did you think of his storyline?
Dude, amazing. I first saw this character in Romance in the Bonus Book, or the actor in Romance in the Bonus Book, but I didn't even notice him. I just saw him in another show. It's like, that guy looks familiar. I'm like, oh, like, it's the same, like, actor. Okay, cool. And in Vincenzo, he was also amazing. Also playing a sleazy, rich guy character.
Yep.
But he is so good at it. Like, I feel like this role was made for him, too. And I thought his performance was great. He was crazy, definitely just like off the charts insane, but I loved it. And what was the second question?
Well, yeah, what did you think of his kind of arc in this episode, I
Ah,
suppose? Because we start with him, well, I guess he kind of gets drawn into the story when Miracle runs into some problems. And then by the end, we end up in a very different place. What did you think of his overall story this episode?
I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than 3O's
Yes.
arc in the other episode because at least he had the chance to fight back. It didn't really seem like she could do anything to get any power on her end, but he has a pretty powerful company behind him, Young Investments, right? Like,
Yeah.
and he is definitely smarter than his sister, more business oriented, everything in those aspects. I enjoyed watching this because it almost looked like he was able to succeed, and kind of put Miracle Investments into trouble versus
Yeah.
with 3-0. Like there's nothing she can do, man. Like she wasn't even a player in the game. But he actually stood a chance against them, especially when he gave a tip saying like Miracle Investments messed with the stocks of new data technology, and yeah, he was able to whisper to the chairman saying, "Oh yeah, I think I should buy Miracle because you don't want to see your grandson fail, right? Like you want this because everything is going to come back to Soon Young. So no matter what happens, I think the best plan is for Soon Young Investment to acquire Miracle Investments."
Yes.
And the chairman agrees. And Jin Do Jun asks his grandfather, like, "Oh, like, are like, don't worry." He says, like, "Don't worry, I will figure it out. I'll have everything in order. Just give us some time. Like, Miracle Investments will not mess with Soon Young in any way." And the chairman
You don't have
says,
to worry about Miracle Investments. Yes.
"Yeah." He's like, "I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about Soon Young."
Yes. Very typical answer from the chairman, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought the performance was so strong with him because he plays that kind of smarmy confidence. Like while everybody
Yeah.
else is panicking, he'll be off in the corner chuckling to himself, just enjoying
Yeah.
the show. But when he loses it, he really loses it.
Dude, he almost punched out like 3 people.
Yeah. Yeah, he like more so than maybe even his father. I see 1-1 in him. He's kind of when he goes off the edge, he like
Yeah.
dives head first. He's just right in there. So it was entertaining seeing the different journeys he goes on because he really I'm with you. Like what I really liked versus the 3-0 story, it was just like a very gradual descent into a plane crash. This one was a boxing match, and it felt like it was fairly toe to toe. We just had to remember that, of course, Jin Do Jun has superpowers, and of course he's going to come out on top in that instance. But it was nice to see him at least look like he was getting put into the corner, like kind of trapped there and getting beaten down. Because when Miracle runs into that problem, one really smart play to use the press against him, because as he says, well, I think this is what he says it to the mayor, right? Where the mayor is like, "Oh, well, it's very hard to prove insider trading and stock manipulation." And he says, "Right, but a case isn't just about what happens in the courtroom." And it's that thing of, okay, well, we can use, what is it called? It's Hyunsung Daily?
Yeah.
We can use that, and he did, to very effective, like a very effective degree where people wanted refunds on their investments and different things. And so even Do Jun was completely thrown off guard to the point where he was kind of panicking. He had a plan in place, and it was a good excuse because he was then able to sell off his American assets, but it still made him panic and look bad in front of the chairman.
Yeah, I think he was definitely worried in that moment, and he was caught off guard with everything that happened. But I think he got really lucky with the tragedy that happens, because otherwise he wouldn't have a good reason to sell his overseas shares. And it was like Mr. O also mentioned that it was a bad idea because the investments overseas is supposed to help cover Miracle Investments for another 5 years, and it's going to look suspicious, and like all that money coming back to them it's going to end up being given for tax purposes or something like that. He's like, it's just so many reasons to not do it, but because of 9/11, it was a great cover as to why he did what he did, because he got backed into a corner. His uncle put him there. He had no other choice or reason but to withdraw the overseas shares, and then it put him way, 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 way up there. Now that what was it called? Miracle Investments. Miracle Fund.
Yeah, Miracle Fund. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there are a couple things at play here. Not to get too into the weeds in it, but I think he was backed in the corner and didn't originally plan to sell these stocks. But I also don't think this is all of their portfolio. I think this is a very select few in the portfolio that he knew that the chauffeur would get a hold of. So you were right. You were absolutely right. In an early episode, we were like, oh, is it just the chauffeur still, or does he have someone else? And I thought they were hinting that there was someone else that was planted in the company. Disappointingly not so. It was still just the chauffeur.
Yeah, how does he
But
get access to all this stuff though? Like what the?
I know, how is he doing
there?
it? So Jin Do Jun clearly leaked those to him so that his uncle would invest in those. And so when he sells those ones off, I think Mr. O was probably overplaying it a little bit, but at the same time, I think he was right. So if you have investments in something, you're not just making money when you sell off those shares, you get dividends. So if at the level of investment they were probably invested, they were probably getting massive dividends that were going to be paying out over the long term. Jin Do Jun, I don't know how he would have known he got back into this corner because he wouldn't have wanted to hang on to those ones. Whereas I do think that he does probably have other foreign investments. Like we know he invested into Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon. Oh my God. I never am going to forget that. But we know he invested in like big companies that will succeed in the future. So I think he's probably still holding on to a bunch of those. Yeah. I don't think he was as much in trouble as he played it up to be, but I do think that he was caught off guard. And I think 2-0 did a good job with that. So it's interesting to see because he always seems to have a backup plan for his backup plan.
Yeah, which I guess is part of his superpowers too.
Yeah, exactly. So, 2-0 did a really, really good job. But when things start not going his way. So basically, well, let's talk about 9/11 for a minute here because it's a tough topic to handle well. And I think the other show that we talked about earlier did a really, really good job of it because they kind of talked about the impact. And with a show like this, you don't really want to get too into the weeds with it, but you also do have to recognize the kind of the scale of that tragedy. And so I thought it was good that Jin Do Jun kind of talks about how it affected him in his past life and how it affected him here, knowing that it was going to happen because he just sold his shares right before it takes place. So he got out. He had, he was going to have to do it so that his business wasn't bought out. But he talks about when he's looking at the window, basically reflecting on it being this thing that is going to shape not only him, but culture around the world, which I thought was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I like how they kept it brief. They didn't dwell on it for too long. It is a really heavy topic. As soon as I saw the clock, I was like, my heart sank. Even though like I was way too young to even know what it was. Obviously when you grow older, you know the impacts of it. So seeing it, I was like, oh crap, like
I think we get so few moments where Jin Do Jun has moments of vulnerability. I think about his moment in the restaurant reflecting on his mother's death. That was really impactful. But so often, and Mr. O even calls it out this episode. Mr. O is so, I mean, he's a very smart guy. Obviously, he's a very smart guy. But he is so on top of it usually where he's like, you never are caught off guard by any of this. Like when the IMF had when Korea had repaid its debt in 3 years when they expected to go for another 3 more. You're not even surprised by this. You're not excited by this. Like I would be out in the streets running, screaming my head off with excitement. You're not even like shocked a little bit. And that's something because before he's always been like, you can predict the future. But the key point here is Jin Do Jun is never even showing signs of excitement, shock, or any of that stuff.
Yes, he says specifically, you don't get excited at all. That's the strange part. And I would have died from my heart exploding or would have been jailed for leading a cult.
Right. Like that's the thing. Like he's saying like you could start a doomsday cult. Like you can clearly predict these events to the point where you don't get excited.
Yeah, Mr. O, he was like really great comedic relief for this episode. Even though he wasn't trying to be, they weren't forcing comedy down our throats. But no. he was just so grounding in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you needed those moments of levity, and he is so good at providing those without having to. Like I really like the brother's character, but he's like a more traditional comedic character, whereas Mr. O can still play the straight man and be funny. And I appreciate that the show doesn't tend towards those big comedic moments, but when they're there, they're always appreciated.
Yeah, Oh, did you also notice that he doesn't call him young expat anymore? He calls him fellow Korean lad.
Fellow Korean lad. I was wondering when that happened. It seemed like he had been doing it all along, but I remember it being fellow what was it? Fellow
Young
expat?
expat?
Right.
Yeah, and I don't. Why is he calling him fellow Korean lad when I thought he doesn't identify as Korean because he was.
Yeah, I didn't think he did either.
Because
But I think
American
it's the
runs
same.
through his blood.
Yeah, it's the same translation team, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe he's accepting his Koreanness now.
He's been living there for years. We know he's been there for
5 years now.
5 years. So yeah, exactly. Now, jumping back into the 2-0 situation, there was one thing that kind of shook me in this episode. That was the one thing this episode that I personally have a complaint about. Okay, all right. So 2-0 uses Hyungsung Daily to go after Miracle Investments. Everybody hates Miracle Investments. They do not trust them because they were manipulating the stocks that caused people to lose all their money with the new data technology stock. We even see it in Jin Do Jun's former life. All of his coworkers lost all of their money. So it's affecting people he knows.
Yes.
Of course, people are going to be really upset. Then the events of 9/11 take place, and Jin Do Jun takes advantage of this by everyone else is trying to sell their stocks or bet against the market, and Jin Do Jun comes up with the Miracle Fund. Invest in the fund, and you will come out of this on the other side, and that's great, and it succeeds. But why would anyone invest in a stock that just a week earlier was accused of manipulating the stock market and doing insider trading? They just completely brush over this, and it's never addressed. It's just like, Jin Do Jun's the hero because he foresaw this and he can walk away clean. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's very smart what he did. Don't get me wrong. But who would be buying that? Who would be trusting it, and why are there no repercussions? Maybe they will continue to look into the insider trading because obviously they'll find out that it's not true.
Yeah.
But it's weird to me that they just get off scot-free.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, I'm on the same wavelength as you. I thought it was wild that just a week ago they were all like pitchforks and torches at
because it's
Miracle
public
Investments.
opinion. It's so hard to change public opinion. If you think about like major events that happen, we hear something about a company, it's like so hard to change that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's weird how they just kind of like, oh, it's fine. Like, are they even going to continue with the prosecution? Are they going to continue with the investments? Like, they didn't even talk about it like after that, right? Like, nothing is mentioned anymore.
No, I think even with So Min Young, she's actually the one who's standing up to her boss because of that.
Yeah.
She's like, well, that's what you were talking about earlier, where she's like, don't leak internal information. Like, she's kind of standing up for him without standing up for him because I think she knows it's not true. Probably before she had to go to the office, he explained what was going on. My guess, because they got the call at the cafe.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think she knew it wasn't true, but she was doing her due diligence. Even if she didn't trust him, she would eventually find out. So it's like, I think we're probably wrapped up with that storyline.
Why are they in a relationship if they don't trust each other? Why are you in a relationship if you're not going to tell her that you're not scummy? Are you still going to pretend that you're like all the F-boy vibes where like, oh, I'll tell you something, but not everything? Like, are you going to keep doing that in the relationship? So like,
I think they're good. I think they cleaned it up, and like I think that's why she doesn't have any doubts in that moment. She comes in and she's like, she looks like she does, but the fact that she stood up to her boss, I think it's two sides of it. Is like, one, she wants to stand up to her boss and do the right thing because he believed in her as a prosecutor, and she now believes in herself as a prosecutor. But two, I think that's also her way of saying, this is some BS and you know it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I don't, like, why are they in a relationship if you're not going to tell each other everything? So why is your face looking like that?
She had to do it. She had to do it for her coworkers. She got her coworkers on board with her, even if she lost the trust, or well, she never had the trust of her boss. Even if she didn't win over her boss, and good. She said screw you to her boss at the end, which is awesome. But she also did win over her coworkers, which I thought was really nice to see them standing up for her. Finally, it's been one episode, but it was good. It was good to see.
I think she got them on her side pretty early on and pretty easily because they know like she's a good character, she has a good heart.
Yeah.
She is in this because she's serious about prosecution. So I'm glad that at least her coworkers aren't scumbags like her boss.
It's true. It's always nice to see that kind of like camaraderie, and they back her up as well.
Yeah, it's her little posse.
Exactly. So this whole thing happens. That's my only complaint for the entire episode, though. I thought the rest of it was really, really smart. So with this miracle fund, they kind of talk about it as this is the end of savings accounts. In the future, everyone will have an investment account.
Yeah.
That's another really interesting and more subtle kind of use of history because, as we know, back in the 1960s and 70s, a single worker in a home, so usually just historically, you would have a husband who would go to work. The mom would be a stay-at-home mom. You would send 2 or even 3 kids off to college, no problem. Then by the 90s, both parents work. They can still buy, a mid-sized home. They send their 2 to 3 kids to college. Today, to do that same thing, you would need a household earning income of like $400,000. It's just a different reality. And so what they're kind of getting at here is we no longer, you can't have a savings account. The interest rates are just way too low. Like it used to be like 20% back in the 90s. It was crazy high. Yeah, it was insane. And so we now have an interest rate of, I don't know if we're lucky, like 1%. It's like your savings account is like so low.
Like
so
0.5.
This is 0.5. Exactly. This is the point, and Jin Do Jun sees this, and he sees this opportunity to basically change the system. And so he's like, okay, we will make it so that people can invest in something they can believe in, and they will have an investment account, and it'll be investing across a number of things. And so people can now buy into this. I just thought it was a really interesting historical point to bring up.
Yeah. When I heard it, I was like, I think Stevie's gonna note that down.
So with 2-0, he does not manage to pull off his buying of miracle investments. Yes. He is not able to use Jin Do Jun's poor investments or I guess the slander. He wasn't able to use Hang Seng Daily to purchase it because after the stock market in the US crashes, he had invested in the same stocks that he thought Jin Do Jun was investing in. But Jin Do Jun was able to sell everything beforehand.
Yeah.
This leads him to panicking, and he blows up not once, but twice. The first time he blows up in his office at one of his employees, and the second time he blows up at his dad while he was pretty inebriated. He was very
was
drunk.
Awesome.
But before we get to the blow-ups, I want to ask you, because 2-0 is known as the numbers guy, but he's actually been going off of a lot of advice from his right-hand man who was telling him like, Jin Do Jun was born on this day, so he's supposed to have bad luck about this. Do you know anything about this, and what did you think of that?
Yo, like Chinese, sort of astrology, I guess. I guess it's considered astrology in English. But yeah, they do the your date of birth, what time, what place you're born, the stars, like that aligned when you were born and everything. You can read everything about your life for that stuff. So I was like, why is this guy into, what is it called, numerology? That's so random, but I guess like numbers and everything. But yeah, like
in this case, it was actually pretty accurate.
Yeah, dude, he says he'll die away from home, an unnatural death. So that's when that's why I was starting to think about is he gonna die again? Because they brought this stuff up, right? Like foreshadowing. Yeah. But there's a thing people say, like, don't ever give people your time and date of birth, because for this exact reason, they can use it against you.
I have never heard that. That's so interesting.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend. Her mom will not tell her what time she was born for this exact reason, because she thinks someone's going to use it against her. And voodoo doll magic almost thing, where they're gonna deliberately ruin her life with the information of her date of birth and time.
That's so interesting. I've never thought about that before. That's so, especially in this episode. So, obviously they mentioned the time of death, but also, they even hint at if he managed to survive. So maybe this comes back to what we started the episode with. He will come back more rich than ever.
Yeah, dude, isn't that also a hint where he has to
He
survive?
has to.
Like,
Well, yeah, he has to. I see. Earlier when I was watching the episode, I thought he was referring to, okay, if you fail to take Miracle Investments right now, obviously
yeah.
he's going to profit, which he
Yes.
does. And so I
Yes.
was like, oh, that paid off really quickly. No, you're absolutely right. It has to be that he survives because eventually he'll come back and he will be stronger than ever.
Dude, he can't die.
He can't die. He can't die. Now, with that said, he does then, when he finds out that Jin Do Jun has managed to not only sell his stocks, but shows up at his place and is like, hey, I would love to actually buy Soon-Young Investments.
Yep. He's like, did you come here to lecture me? No, I'm here to buy Young investment.
Yeah.
And he says this line back to him, a nephew takes the responsibility for his uncle's shortcomings.
Which
Like,
is basically parroting exactly what his uncle said to the chairman when he was like, well, I just want to, do the right thing and take care of my nephew.
yeah, it's like an uncle taking responsibility over his nephew's mistakes.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And he even says, like, I like that picture. As in, like, oh yeah, I like how that looks, because that's again parroting what he said. It's so good, and a good callback to the earlier part of the episode, because it just feels so satisfying when these people fall so hard.
Right? And they always
Yeah.
use so many metaphors that like it seems like everyone's kind of using too, because the chairman always uses the phrase like he asks, if your dog bites you, is it the owner's fault or is it the dog's fault, right? And Jin Do Jun fires back at 2-0 asking, or like saying, you can't let in a neighbor's dog just because they're cute. It will be your loss if it bites you. Referring to the chauffeur giving him information, right? Like, they have such good lines in this show, and I love it.
Such good lines. I wrote down the exact same one because I was like, it echoes his grandpa, which is so good, because the whole thing is he wants to be the successor. He wants to be, well, he doesn't even want to be the successor. He wants to be, well, yeah, the successor. He wants to succeed him. He wants to even be better than him. But he needs to first show that he thinks like his grandfather. So showing 2-0 that is hilarious on so many levels.
Right? And Jin Do Jun has said before that the chairman is teaching him what everything he's learning and everything he's doing. He is going down this path because of the chairman. And when the chairman says like, oh yeah, they did an X-ray on me and they found 3 things, like my greed for money, my distrust to the people who work for me, and my ability to instantly turn on anyone at any time. And Jin Do Jun also says, I also have 3 things. I have greed. I have what was it again? I forgot what he said. He's like, I have greed, suspicion, and change of mind. Like you.
Yep. Yeah, he's really good, and I think he even recognized this one might have been a little on the nose, because he kind of like gets embarrassed and looks away, and then the chairman starts laughing, and he's like, okay, no, he knows how to play him so well.
Yeah, and that's the moment where we see he wants to give the what's it called, the financial group, financial
Yeah,
holdings
Soon-Young
company.
Financial Holdings. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to give Soon-Young's financial holdings to Jin Do Jun, and then obviously he dies.
Unfortunately, yes. But there's so much in those last few minutes. We see the blow up of 3-0 literally crying on the
2-0.
floor. Sorry,
3-0 did cry
2-0,
too,
you're
but
right.
yeah.
2-0. Yeah. Well, she did too. But yeah, no, we see him literally like break down on the floor, and then he's so upset, and 1-1 is upset. 1-0 is upset, and we're always going to be messing up these numbers. All of the sons are upset at the thought that Jin Do Jun is going to be inheriting this. Basically, they all realize at the same time that Jin Do Jun doesn't even know. All of a sudden, the chairman shows up at Miracle Investments and is like, hop in the car, and he's like, oh, you didn't even call beforehand. And they all get word that he's called a press conference. The chairman has called a press conference. We thought that he was going to be giving this investment group to 2-0, as he had originally planned. But with hearing what happened, he decides to give it to Jin Do Jun. Big moment. Car crash happens. If the car crash did not happen, this would have pretty much cemented Jin Do Jun as the successor.
Yeah. So that's why they had to have a car crash.
Absolutely. And so, because not only, so he already owns 55% of the department store.
Yes.
He now owns Soon-Young Investments.
Yes.
He would have had the financial investments, or whatever the group is, financial holdings. So he would have owned everything except for 1O's portion of Soon-Young.
I don't even know what he does. He's so out of this show that I forget what he's in charge of.
Right? So there's not a lot anyone could have done at that point. Like, he owns the majority of the company, aside from also the chairman's part of the company. But he was going to hand that over to him anyways, yes. Assuming that he was giving him the succession. So the one thing we didn't talk about in this, and you kind of brought her up earlier, Hyunmin, sorry, I'm really working on my pronunciations. They're not there yet. Man. Thank you. So she comes into this episode at one point, and we don't need to get into the whole drama that happens with 1 Alpha, 2 Alpha, and her.
Oh my gosh.
That was a juicy scene. She does, take the blame for the tea being poured over and all of that. But what's interesting about that is she makes her presence known once again, and she is the one who overhears what's happening in the meeting with 1O, with the chairman and stuff. Like, I think she's living there as much for appearances as she is to like gather intel on everybody.
Yeah, she's like a little spy, man. Like, she's a mole. She's the newspaper family.
I also want to call out one comment on that. There are a couple of comments that thank you everybody for your comments on all of our videos. We love reading them. We try to respond to as many as we can as well, but they honestly make our day. Thank you so much for commenting. But we've had a lot of good comments recently. Someone that I want to call out though is Paulo Miguel Gomez. He said Song Jun's acting during that 1-1 intense wedding scene. This is back in episode 8. He said Song Jun's acting during that 1-1 intense wedding scene with Hyungmin was so good that I wanted to punch his face. Dude is absolutely crazy, and we saw that in episode 1-2 when he smashed the aquarium and hit Hyun-woo with the golf club. I thought that was a really funny comment while I was reading it. But in another episode, he's talking about Hyun-min, same commenter, and was basically like, yeah, she's cute, but she's crazy.
Yeah, she's insane. They're all insane.
You can't trust her.
Yeah, I don't trust her at all, man. Like, I felt so many emotions for her, like when that wedding episode. Mm-hmm. But like after that, I'm like, no, she's crazy. I can't invest any more emotions into her. I'm just gonna get hurt.
I will invest my emotions, but I'm doing so knowing that she will probably burn my house down.
Yeah. So you like crazy?
No, I wouldn't date crazy, but from a writing perspective, I find her very entertaining, and I like her character a lot.
Yeah, same. I wonder why she is in these episodes so much more than 1-1.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of proves that like he is kind of useless without her, right? Like she wears the pants in the relationship. She's the schemer. Yeah, we haven't seen one at all. And when 1-0 says like, oh, he's doing great at the manufacturing industry or whatever, his freaking grandfather says, yeah, he can stay there. Suits him. I was like, damn, like he really cut him out after that. But it's so wild to see because you see him say like, I can cut anyone out at any time. But when it comes to his children, he always says, they're my kids, your father's siblings, your aunt and uncle. Why must you go this far? When he was talking to Jin Do Jun, he always brings up like, these are my kids. And you see like the soft side to him, but at the same time, he's like, nah, screw you.
I think, it's interesting. I think he shut it down a little bit more this episode. Like he was talking about that, but also I think he knows the timeline. Like it's speeding up, right? Like he knows he's near the end. So I feel like he's more willing to toss his kids under the bus, or even his grandson in this case, to be like, no, he can stay where he is. I care too much about Soon-Young, and he would only screw it up.
Oh, I do think when we do see 1-1 again, it's probably going to be intense.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to come back in a big way. He's too important in that first episode. Like, I really do think the key things from that first episode are 1-1. and his relationship with, well, I guess 4-2 being Jin Do Jun. I think the mother, the disappearance, and then, yeah, who betrayed him? Because it could be the same person who had him hit with the car, for all we know. So it's gonna be, yeah, I'm really excited for this. So we are on episode 10. That's gonna wrap up our impressions for episode 10. But before that, we're gonna do good and bad. This is a segment we do every episode where, Qomi, I'm gonna throw a few things at you, and all I need you to do is tell me, is it good or bad? Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, here we go. Crying on the floor, good or bad?
Good to watch.
Chauffeurs, good or bad?
Bad.
Pouring tea, good or bad?
Bruh. I mean, into a cup is good.
Yeah, there you go. Dating your frenemy, good or bad?
Bad. Bad.
Truck kun, good or bad?
Bad.
Very bad, very bad.
Dude.
All right, and that'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah. This is where one got his behavior from. His mom also pouring liquids onto someone's head, pouring tea, pouring coffee.
Family trait. Who knew that was inherited?
Yeah, right? They're crazy is genetics.
Crazy is genetics. All right, Qomi, with that, what are you going to rate this episode? If you had to review it from 5 stars, what would you give it?
I think I'd still give it a 4.
Okay, why?
I guess I'm hopeful that things will ramp up even more. And I don't want to, like, I know in the beginning I said, like, it was my favorite episode, but it's, like, so far, I'm, like, hoping there's going to be more to it. There's going to be more things to see crash and burn, and, like, more drama and crying and screaming and rolling on the floor type of thing. I really enjoyed this episode, so it's definitely, like, 4.5-ish, but I don't want to, like, set the bar too high and then just be disappointed for the rest of the season.
I have faith. I'm also going to give this a 4-star. I thought it was an excellent episode. Definitely like a top 2 episode for me. But I think they threw down the gauntlet. They have big things planned, because you can't just have him get in a car crash at this point. It's only episode 10. There are 16 episodes. They have to have something planned. So I'm holding out that in the next few episodes, it will just continue to ramp up, and we're going to get a 5-star in there. I didn't believe it when the show began. I'm hoping we get a 5-star episode. The show has just... I think the writing is so solid, aside from the romance. The writing is so solid that I think they might be able to get to that point for at least an episode where it's just collision after collision after collision of the Titans in the family, and things will take off and the mysteries will wrap up. And I have faith. Please don't let me down. Please.
Collision and collision. I was thinking car crash and 2-0 crashing to 3-0.
Truck Kun 2-1. Truck Kun 2-0. Truck Kun 3-0.
Dude, I can't believe they ended off the episode with a freaking truck going. I had that is so clicky. You don't know how much willpower I had to have to not click on the next episode.
I know. If it wasn't for the podcast, we would have already binged the entire thing. But we promise we are like, no, we're only going to do 2 episodes a week. Unfortunately, they released 3 episodes a week for this show. We did not know that when we were starting this.
Right? What show does this? It's crazy.
This is new. I've never seen a show release 3 episodes per week. But alas, here we are. Thank you, everybody, for watching. This has been our reaction to episode 10 of Reborn Rich. Thank you, Song Joon Ki, for this great show. Well, and everybody else, but...
Yeah, thank you guys for watching and subscribing. We're at like 60-something subs now. Crazy. Thank you guys
It's crazy.
Like,
it's actually crazy.
Yes, and thanks for all the comments. And yeah, we'd love to see what you guys think, what you guys want to talk about. You guys can talk about the show with us. Hashtag spoiler alert it probably. But yeah, thank you guys so much for taking the time to comment and write to us as well.
Yes. Let us know what you thought of 2-0 crying on the floor. Let us know what you thought of the slow motion running leading into that kissing scene. And of course, let us know. I was gonna say The brother, and then I realized that was last episode because nobody ever talks about the brother. I want more about the brother.
Oh, for one.
4-1, yeah. I always want to know
Yeah.
more about 4-1 because I just find him really funny. But
I was
Y2K
really-
was last episode.
I was really hoping that he would be more of like a more main character, like not the main, but like like the side main.
I feel like there's just so much going on that there's not enough time for him. These episodes would be like an hour and a half every time if we got everything we wanted.
Yeah, I guess. But anyways,
2-hour finale. 2-hour finale. Do it. Do it. Episode 16. 2-hour finale.
Dude, it's gonna take us 4 hours to watch.
Heck yeah.
Oh my
All right,
gosh.
that'll do it.
See you guys next week.